Welcome people, it's time to be epic, be legendary. Estonia just celebrated 100 years of independence. February 24th, 1918, it was the day Estonia earned its independence from the Soviet Union. But it took the singing revolution to make this independence everlasting. Some of you might be asking, what is the singing revolution? That is a good question, and we are going to talk about that right now. The singing revolution is an amazing story that is untold by many. The singing revolution is the reason why Estonians have their freedoms today, why they have their independence today. Stay tuned to this video because I have a video that I want to show you that is very patriotic. If you are Estonian or if you're a patriot in any country, I think this video will lit a fire in you and being proud of where you are from, regardless of what country you're from. The first thing we have to talk about is early Estonia. Estonians ruled their land for about 5,000 to 8,000 years, according to experts. During this time, Estonians had built the country through sheer will, making the country independent and wealthy. On top of that, they also successfully defended against foreign invaders. It wasn't until 1201 that Germans decided to set up a trading post in Riga. For those of you who don't know, Riga is the capital of Latvia, and saw the wealth and success of Estonia. The Baltic Germans decided that they wanted to occupy Estonia not only for their wealth but for their defensive coastlines. In 1208, Pope Innocent III formed the mercenaries to occupy and control Estonia. This would be a crusade, the Baltic Crusade, in which the Germans would try to control the Baltic states, including Estonia. In 1208, for 19 years, they would attack. The country only had 175,000 people, and their military force consisted mainly of fishermen and farmers. The country would eventually fall in the hands of the Baltic Germans. They had to deal with professional armies from the Danish, the Swedes, the Baltic Germans, and the Poles. Eventually, Russia will come into play into 1721 when Peter the Great invades and conquers Estonia. Because of these foreign invasions, Estonia will fall under foreign rule for hundreds and hundreds of years. The next thing we're going to talk about is Estonia Renaissance. In 1860, a great awakening had occurred. Estonians became more interested in their own literature, art, music, so much that they created the first Laulupidu, or the Song Festival. The national epic poem, Kalevipoeg, helped bring unity to the Estonians as the poem became popular within the country. Because of this unity that kept growing and growing within the country, a great awakening occurred that made many Estonians desire for independence. Because of this unity and this desire for independence, Estonians will find their will and try to find a way to gain their independence from their occupiers. The third thing we have to talk about is Estonia going from being occupied to independent. World War I ended up being a huge help to the Estonians. On March 15, 1917, the Bolsheviks forced Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate his throne. This weakened the Russian Empire, thus forcing troops to return home from different areas of the world. Because of their troops returning home to Russia, Estonia used this opportunity to declare their independence from Russia. On November 28, 1917, Estonia would declare their independence from Russia. But Russia would not easily give the country away back to the Estonians. They will come in and invade and try to take over the country once again, but they failed. The next year, in 1918, the Germans would come in and try to occupy the country. Estonia had to fight two foreign invaders, the Germans and the Russians. The Estonians would be successful defeating both foreign powers. In 1919, the Estonians defeated the Baltic Germans, and in 1920, the Estonians would end up defeating the Russians. The victory would force the Russians to sign a treaty with the Estonians to recognize the country's independence. The third thing we have to talk about is Estonia's adaptation to independence. For a long time, the country has been ruled over by foreign powers. The Estonians, through sheer will, as before their ancestors, knew that they had to adapt quickly and modernize. They made their first constitution based on the Switzerland Constitution and granted many freedoms such as freedom of speech and freedom of religion within the country. The country also thrived by trading with Western powers. Because of their ability to trade with them, the country's economy boomed. Unemployment never went above 2% within the country. A lot of people in the country were enjoying their independence and seeing the benefits of being a free society. The fourth thing we have to talk about is how Estonia's independence would not last. Two major foreign powers will end up causing havoc within Europe: Hitler and Stalin. Both men and their countries decided to make a pact called the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, or MRP. This pact would allow both countries to split Europe into halves. In September 24th, 1939, Stalin issued an ultimatum to Estonia. That ultimatum was to allow military bases for his troops to be stationed in. If Estonia granted this permission, Stalin would recognize their independence. If they didn't, he would force his way and send troops to occupy the country. At that time, Estonians had witnessed Russia take over and occupy through force their two Baltic states neighbors of Latvia and Lithuania. Estonia decided to grant this permission to Stalin and establish military bases. Unfortunately, Stalin would break his promise of recognizing the country's independence. The country would be occupied and ruled over by the Soviet Union. Because of Stalin's brutal dictatorship, he executed and deported many Estonian businessmen and political figures who were against him in some form or fashion. Communism had finally spread into Estonia, and this will take all the freedoms that they worked so hard to establish away from them. At one point, Stalin was trying to erase the Estonian culture by making it illegal to raise the Estonian flag, be able to do anything Estonian related. He even tried to do Russification by sending Russian workers within the country to make Estonian Russian. The Estonians would have to endure this for many, many years. This hardship of following Soviet rule. Even though Estonians fell under Soviet rule, many of them still hungered for independence. In 1947, the first Lulipidu was held for the first time after Soviet rule. The famous line, "Mu isama on minu arm," or "My fatherland is my love," many people would use this term to unite and want independence. This would lead to the Singing Revolution, which took place from 1987 to 1991. The Singing Revolution was very important, and this video that I'm about to show you says it all.
Me võidame nii või nii. Sina usu endasse, kui sina usu endasse.
ajatusi, kannu poiste kaevamisi, sama meeste salvamisi, madalate manitsusi, sõgedate sõitlemisi, siis ei saa sa midagi, siis ei saa sa midagi. Isamaa ilu oli veel mees, vaenlase vastu oli veel mees. Kui sina vajud valedesse, upakille unedesse, jääb pakille käsu alla, rõõtsakille rubla alla, siis saad kirvud kuumemesse, süügelised südamesse, vaised pähekondid kõrgu, siis sina lähed võrgusse, siis sa lähed võrgusse. Isamaa ilu oli veel mees, vaenlase vastu oli veel mees. Kui sina usud endasse, siis sina usud rahvasse, taludesse, tarkusesse, õpetusse, õigusesse, kodukoha kaasitusse, pilvepiiril pääsutesse, siis saab vaimu vägeva.